Does the government work for us or do we work for the government? What if we never really had freedom? Tonight, what if we only think that we're free? What if freedom is just a myth? What if it's the kind of myth that allows the establishment to orchestrate conformity? What if the population thinks we have freedom and self-determination, but in reality, everything we do is based on a blueprint molded to the shape that the elites desire? What if the choices that we make come from a menu that the government has written? What if every time society uncovered natural rights and the natural law, the government was not far behind, ready to insert its artificial laws before we all got carried away with freedom? What if for every law that is innate and true and immutable, there is another law that is completely man-made and utterly fictional and destructive of freedom? What if this was done to distort our understanding of reality and sense of purpose? What if the natural law was liberating to human beings, but dangerous to the government because it signified that the rule of law exists outside of the government? What if that's why government demands a monopoly on violence and a monopoly on articulating the law? What if the government is afraid that if you exercise your natural rights, you could dilute the power of government? What if freedom was actually our birthright, a part of our humanity, along with the gift of free will? What if Jefferson was right, and we are all endowed by our Creator with the inalienable rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness? What if the government doesn't accept that? What if the natural law was co-opted by government in order to rob us of that birthright, to pull the wool over our eyes, and to replace a real freedom that derives from our humanity with an artificial sense of freedom that exists at the pleasure and the mercy of the government? What if the Constitution has been amended by consensus? What if those who have taken an oath to uphold it, almost to a person, have agreed not to do so? What if in this way our Constitution has become meaningless? What if in this way our republic has been turned into the very thing the Constitution was written to prevent? What if we really have mob rule, where the majority gets its way, right or wrong? What if the government put your rights up to a vote? What if a majority voted to take away the rights of persons in groups it hated or fears? What if the voters got to approve your ownership of property or the size of your income or even your choice of a spouse? What if the idea of government-enforced fairness was a way to deceive us? What if the demand for fairness was just another way to neutralize the rule of law and force it to submit to the rule of government? What if the government could get your income before you do? What if the government just took that income and gave it away in your name? What if the government persuaded a majority to think that somehow its theft of your property was in pursuit of fairness? What if corporations and government have forged an unholy alliance? What if the idea of government regulation of business was just a way for some corporations to insert themselves into the machinery of government? What if those corporations became the tools of government to stamp out competition, to stifle the free market, and to maintain dominance? What if the American corporate scene is full of zombie companies, trudging on despite inefficiencies, lack of profits, low quality of goods and services, because they are animated no longer by the free market and the free choices of consumers seeking the best goods and services, but rather they exist at the pleasure and the mercy and because of the largesse of the government? What if the economy is moribund precisely because the government is trying to revive it? What if we didn't have a chance to do anything about this because both the Republican wing and the Democratic wing of the big government party each sought to maintain this unfree status? What if these presidential primaries mean nothing because the groups running them were simply different flavors of the same progressive tendency to expand both the welfare and the warfare state? What if what's best for you can never be determined objectively by one central government, but must consistently be renegotiated by you, by free people operating in an environment free from aggression, where no one can dictate for another what's best for him? What if you could secure your freedom by telling the government enough is enough? What if a selfish defense of your property enhanced everyone's freedom? What if the best government really is the one that governs least? What if you could ignore the government? What if you could shrink the government down to the confines of the Constitution? What if the natural law really did trump the government's law? What if we could be truly free to pursue our own happiness? What if we had the courage to make this happen? From New York, defending freedom. government work for us or do we work for the government? What if Democrats and Republicans were two wings of the same bird of prey? Tonight, what if elections don't matter? What if elections were actually useful tools for social control? What if they just provided the populace with meaningless participation in a process that validates an establishment that never meaningfully changes? What if that establishment doesn't want and doesn't have the consent of the governed? What if the two-party system was actually a mechanism used to limit so-called public opinion? What if there were more than two sides to every issue, but the two parties wanted to box you into a corner, one of their corners? What if there's no such thing as public opinion, because every thinking person has opinions that are uniquely his own? What if what we call public opinion was just a manufactured narrative that makes it easier to convince people that if their views are different, then there's something wrong with that, or there's something wrong with them? What if the whole purpose of the Democratic and Republican parties was not to expand voters' choices, but to limit them? What if the widely perceived differences between the two parties was just an illusion? What if the heart of the government policy remains the same no matter who's in the White House? What if the heart of government policy remains the same no matter what the people want? What if those vaunted differences between Democrat and Republican were actually just minor disagreements? What if both parties just want power and are willing to have young people fight meaningless wars in order to enhance that power? What if both parties continue to fight the war on drugs just to give bureaucrats and cops bigger budgets and more jobs? What if government policies didn't change when government leaders did? What if no matter who won an election, government stayed the same? What if government was really a revolving door for political hacks bent on exploiting the people once they're in charge? What if both parties supported welfare, war, debt, bailouts, and big government? What if the rhetoric that candidates displayed on the campaign trail was dumped after electoral victory? What if Barack Obama campaigned as an anti-war, pro-civil liberties candidate and then waged senseless wars while assaulting your rights that the Constitution is supposed to protect? What if George W. Bush campaigned on a platform of non-intervention and small government and then waged a foreign policy of muscular military intervention and a domestic policy of vast government borrowing and growth? What if Bill Clinton declared that the era of big government was over, but actually just convinced Republicans like Newt Gingrich that they can get what they want out of big government too? What if the Republicans went along with it? What if Ronald Reagan spent 6 years running for president, promising to shrink the government, but then the government grew while he was in the White House? What if, notwithstanding Reagan's ideas and cheerfulness and libertarian rhetoric, there really was no Reagan revolution at all? What if all this is happening again? What if Rick Santorum is being embraced by voters who want small government, even though Senator Santorum voted for the Patriot Act, for an expansion of Medicare, and for raising the debt ceiling by trillions of dollars? What if Mitt Romney is being embraced by voters who want anyone but Barack Obama, but they don't realize that Mitt Romney might as well be Barack Obama on everything from warfare to welfare? What if Ron Paul is being ignored by the media, not because, as it claims, he's unappealing or unelectable, but because he doesn't fit into the pre-manufactured public opinion mold used by the establishment to pigeonhole the electorate and create the so-called narrative that drives media coverage of elections? What if the biggest difference between most candidates was not substance, but style? What if those stylistic differences were packaged as substantive ones to reinforce the illusion of a difference between Democrats and Republicans? What if Mitt Romney wins and ends up continuing most of the same policies that Barack Obama promoted? What if Barack Obama's policies, too, are merely extensions of those from George W. Bush? What if a government that manipulated us could be fired? What if a government that lacked the true and knowing consent of the governed could be dismissed? What if it were possible to have a real game changer? What if we need a Ron Paul to preserve and protect our freedoms from the government? What if we could make elections matter again? What if we could do something about this? From New York, defending freedom every night of the week.